What's up guys, Greg Bear here of Greg's Halfling Garden channel, and welcome to another video. And in today's video, we're going to go over all the seeds I purchased this year, why I purchased them, where I got them from. We're going to go over my light setup, and we're going to go over the soil medium I use for all my seedlings. So with that being said, let's get this video started. So, before we get talking about the seeds, I want to talk about why I chose the seeds I did. Now, I've been gardening probably, I think 6 years now at my new house, and I've been growing the heirloom seeds from Baker Creek, which are pretty awesome, except I don't do any rotation or anything like that, so I've been running into a lot of problems with early blight, late blight, blossom end rot, not so much, but the blights mainly. Once we get to about early August, you start seeing the spots on there, and I trim the heck out of them. I do apply neem oil and a few other things on them, but you cannot stop that. Once it starts raining and the spores spread, it's over. So I actually found some tomato seeds that say they're a little bit resistant to early and late blight, so I'm really excited about that. I got them from Johnny's Seed Catalog. Like I said, normally I've been ordering from Baker Creek, which is an awesome place to order your seeds from. They probably have 200 or 300 types of tomatoes alone. I love that place. Seeds are beautiful, plants are beautiful, tomatoes are beautiful. But sadly, the customers at my produce stand, they just don't care about the heirloom tomatoes. They just want a normal standard cherry tomato and a normal beefsteak tomato. So I have to keep up with what they want, and I'm going to grow with these seeds this year and see how they do. So let's go over the varieties I'm going to try this year. First one we have is the Wisconsin 55. It's an indeterminate. And of course, like I said, it's resistant to early and late blight. I think it's a globe tomato, roughly 4 to 8 ounces, normal standard red color, nothing crazy. And has a 98% germination rate on it. So pretty excited to grow this one, should do very well. And also it's organic. Next I'm growing the hybrid bell pepper, the Ace F1 pepper. Did a lot of research on this one. It's highly recommended for northern climates where you have a shorter growing season. I'm going to grow a lot of these in my greenhouse, so it doesn't affect it as much, but should be another good winter here. And it's a smaller bell pepper. It's not like a giant one you'd find in the supermarket. It's like a mid-sized one, but it still should grow very well. And people went wild for my peppers last year, so I'm really excited to see how these do at the stand. Next, we have the Magic Mountain F1. These seeds were super expensive. I only got 15 seeds and they cost, I think, $6. This is a cherry tomato, get up to 2 ounces. Once again, resistant to early and late blight, and just a standard red color as well. I was selling pints and quarts of cherry tomatoes like hotcakes. I could not keep up, especially when the blight hit and the tomatoes really slowed down in production. So I'm hoping these things will get me through into late August and September, maybe even early October. So I'll have a better crop of tomatoes, especially if I grow a few of these in the greenhouse. I can definitely see a crop into October, hopefully. Next up, we got the Juliet tomato. This kind of looks like a teardrop tomato. It says it's a hybrid plum paste tomato, but the other reviewers say it's more of a cherry tomato without the thick wall in it. Another one that's resistant to blight, and I got a ton of these seeds. I'm probably going to go close to 100 of this plant alone to see how they do, to fill up those little quart-sized baskets for the stand. And finally, just another standard globe tomato, another 6 to 8 ounce tomato, the damsel. And of course, all my tomatoes I do indeterminates. Some people like to grow determinates if they want to do canning, but I like the steady production throughout the year instead of all at once, because I did canning for a few years. I don't really like to do it anymore because it always seems like when I get all the tomatoes are the days where it's 95 degrees out and I have to boil a 20-quart pot of water all day in my house while I'm running my air conditioner, and it's just dumb. So I don't really can much anymore. But so with that being said, that's all my seeds right here. Next, I want to show you my layout here. I've actually got all my pots and seed trays ready to go, filled up with my medium. So let's go over that. Okay, right here we have your standard, I don't know what the dimensions are, your standard seed flat, whatever that dimension might be, and these pots. Now, I actually started my seeds in your standard little seed trays that have like, what, 48 to 72 little seed sections in them, and they were great, you know, for the first 2 or 3 weeks. The seedlings look great, but then after a while you have to transplant them up again. Otherwise, you're super root bound and they will just never grow and kind of get stunted almost, especially if you're going to keep them in there for a couple months like I do, because I have them on the grow lights for probably about a month and a half to maybe 2 months, and then out in the greenhouse for a couple of weeks to harden them over, and then I plant them in the ground. So I did a lot of research and I finally found this pot. It's a 3" by 3" by 6" deep pot, and this thing is totally awesome for any tomato plant or pepper plant. It's just the right size where it fits in the seed tray. You can actually fit 18 of these in your standard seed tray, and it's also big enough where I actually plant 2 tomato plants in these, and it doesn't get root bound enough where I actually can take these out and separate the roots and bury them in the ground and be perfectly fine. I don't harm anything, and the tomatoes grow really well. So under my current grow light situation, I can fit 4 of these trays under each one of my grow light shelves. So I'm looking at over 140 tomato plants per shelf, which is insane. That'll fill up my whole 10-foot by 40-foot tomato garden, and some in the other one as well, in the older garden where the hobbit door is and all that. So that's the setup right now. I actually have 8 of these trays set up, and I do a little bit of scrap metal collecting and collect cans as well as a side hustle, and I found probably close to 100 of these. A contractor did some flower plantings at a house and threw out these. They're a little bit bigger than the ones I bought, but they still work out really good, and I got them for free. And I'll try to find a link to these if anybody's interested in these, because they are awesome. I think I paid $30 with free shipping on Amazon for 100 of these, and this is the 3rd, maybe even the 4th year I've used them. They're pretty durable, a lot thicker than the seed tray things with the 48 things in them, because those are like super thin and they crack after a while, especially when you're pushing the plugs out. And these are just awesome. You just push them on the edge a little bit and pull the tomato right out and you're good to go. All right, so that's that. Let me show you the light setup I built and give you a cost estimate on this and go over all that kind of stuff. What I have here, this is a standard 2-foot by 4-foot shelf system. It originally had 5 shelves on it, but I actually got rid of a couple of them so I could have more room to run the lights on. Got this at Sam's Club, I think for $60. It says it's rated for up to 800 pounds, so I'm doing pretty good with the weight on this. And then we have on each shelf 3 4-foot shop lights. Now here's where it gets complicated. If you did want to use these lights to grow past the vegetative state, you probably couldn't, because they're not full spectrum. I think they're 5K lights, so they're pretty good for vegetative, but past 2 or 3 months under these and the plants will start to get really straggly, and they probably will never fruit as well. And what I did here, got a simple furring strip here that I cut to length and zip tied. You can see each one of these has a set of holes in it, and I fasten it to this wood here to keep it nice and sturdy. And underneath here, exposure is probably going to be a little bright, but I have a board on each one of these to hold it up. You can see it has these peg holes here. Actually, the board has nails on it, so it fits perfectly in there. And as the plants grow, I can just lift these up so the light will get higher and higher. Experimenting the past 2 or 3 years now. My plants will probably get to about 1 foot to 16 inches before I'll put them out in the greenhouse, which will probably be early April to mid-April. I'll fill those out there with a little heater on inside the greenhouse, protected by another greenhouse inside the greenhouse, because I'm crazy like that. And of course run the little electric heater that barely uses anything. It's a 300-watt heater with a temperature regulator on it, so I'll keep it in there for probably about 70 degrees. Run that all the time and hopefully see some good results, because I usually do. And yeah, I've got 2 of these shelves, and now let's go over some of the cost here. Like I said, the shelf itself costs $60, which of course you could probably make this with 2x4s for maybe half the cost, or even use studs. I don't think you have to use 2x4s. That's probably a little overkill. You could even probably use a 2x2, one of those square post things, and do it this way. Probably save a little money. And the lights themselves, they were very expensive. Well, for me, I think they were expensive. Each one of these costs between $20 and $30 for this set up here. This is the first set I built. I've had it for the 3 or 4 years now. And so the total cost on this was probably $100 for this first set. But second set, I got a great deal on it. Walmart Black Friday sale. They were selling these lights for, I think, $12 a piece. These aren't as bright as the top ones. These are, I'm trying to think, 4,000 lumens a piece instead of 5,000. But still getting, what is that, 12,000 lumens on here. It's almost the exact amount you need. There's a lumen per inch guide, and I'm just a little under it, but in the past, it's worked fine for me, so I'm going to keep going with it. And you could always go and buy real full spectrum grow lights and probably spend $1,000 on this whole shelf. Go wild with it. And overall, I probably only used 200 watts or less on this whole setup. And yeah, it's probably only cost me less than $20 to run this my whole season to get these plants started. So it's definitely a lifesaver here. And of course, I've got everything lined up nice on this power strip. And it's a little messy down here. I've got some succulents growing on here right now. I've got a timer on there, which I still have to set up once I actually get everything planted. And I think that is everything. Oh, one more thing. I talked about it in the last video, but once I'm done and I get everything planted, I found this on another guy's YouTube channel. If you ever watch 1 Yard Revolution, that guy's amazing. I learned most of my stuff from him. He actually used a survival blanket, I think it was, a Mylar blanket, because it has a nice reflective inside, and it also has some R value to it. It's not much, but it's enough to help hold the heat in. The little heat that these LED lights give out, this blanket will help hold that in, and you'll see a nice 70 to 80 degree temperature in here when the lights are on. So I throw a Mylar blanket over each one of these, and we're good to go. So now we are on to planting. I'm going to show you my really badly drawn planting diagram I drew up just now, and then we'll plant the seeds. We'll go over watering, then we'll go over the soil medium, and we'll be good to go. All right, guys, here's my setup for this year. It's pretty simple. I have 8 seed trays, and I'm going to divide them up into individual things like this. So I'm going to grow 3 seed trays worth of Ace peppers, and I'm actually going to double up each one of these, so we'll get a total of 144 Ace pepper plants, so I can spread those all across my garden. Doing 2 Juliettes because the grape tomatoes are very popular, and 1 Magic Mountain because I only have 15 seeds, so I can't do much with that, and then 1 Damsel and 1 Wisconsin 55, and gonna double up each one of those, so we'll have a crap ton of tomatoes, probably close to 200 plants. And of course, once you get into like late June, early July, once you start pruning off suckers, you can actually plant those. So I'll probably end up maybe with 250 plants by the end of everything, because I can spread them out even more and save a couple seeds here and there. Okay, layout's done. Let's talk about the soil medium here. My soil medium of choice is Pro Mix BX. I've used quite a few other things. I think like the Jiffy Mix is what I started with. I've tried to use just compost and make my own stuff with vermiculite and stuff, but I found this to be the best thing I've ever used. It's, I think, 75% peat moss with vermiculite, perlite, calcium, and mycorrhizae, which is like a fungal network thing. It'll make pretty much what mushrooms are made out of. It's really healthy stuff. It'll help get nutrients to the soil and the rhizosphere faster and all that stuff. And I also mix in a really low dose of pelleted fertilizer. I think it's like a 3-3-3 mix, just to get these things started. Otherwise, I don't use fertilizer for anything. I just trust the compost and trust the nature's process, because it works for me very well. So that's that. You can find Pro Mix pretty much at any, I have like an Agway if you have one of those around here, or maybe even Tractor Supply, Country Max. Those are all my mainstays for this stuff. It's about $17 for 2 cubic feet, or you can buy a bale that's 4 cubic feet for like $35. So whatever you want to do with that, it'll go very far too. This is probably only half a bale for all 8 of these seed trays, and this is a lot of soil. It filled up my whole wheelbarrow pretty much after I mixed everything together. All right, next step, I'm gonna get all these wet and then we can start planting, the fun part. Now I'm sure you guys don't want to see a time lapse of me planting every single seed in all 8 of these trays in 144 trays, so I'll just do one right now. We're gonna start with the Juliet here. And of course I only have 15 of these, so I gotta be super careful. And I'm just gonna plant, since I only have enough seeds to do 1 seed per tray, plant it right in the middle. They suggest about a 1/4 inch deep. And just lightly pack it down. When I first started this, I used to plant the seeds and then water it, and I quickly realized that was a total mistake because peat moss is super hydrophobic, meaning the water kind of beads off, and it also tended to take the seeds with it, so I kind of washed away most of my seeds when I first started and lost everything. It was a horrible mess, but now I've learned from my mistakes and water the soil before I put the seeds in, you'll be good to go. So that's how I plant my seeds, and I'll be repeating this 144 times now. And let's just skip to being done with planting seeds. Oh hey, everything's planted now. Now next step, good old friend Mr. Saran Wrap. I actually already did them all, but the purpose of it, of course, is to retain moisture in here, because for the first week or so these seedlings need to wake up and they need to be nice and moist and touching the soil like so they activate and actually start to grow. So just a nice layer of Saran Wrap. You don't want to leave it on too long, otherwise you'll start to get some mold problems underneath there. So probably no more than a week, just enough to get the seedlings started. Now the last step is we're going to take our Mylar blanket and throw it over here and we will be done. So guys, that about wraps up today's video. If you found some great tips out of this, maybe you were having some failure problems in the past with your seedlings, I hope I helped you out a little bit. And with that being said, if you like this video, definitely give it a like. If you want to see more, definitely subscribe and become one of my halflings. And if you want to stay in the know for all my future uploads, turn on that notification bell and make sure it's set to notifications on always. I'll try to post a video every week, maybe even twice a week now. And I'm definitely going to do a weekly update on my seedlings. So, hope to see you guys all next video. Greg Bear out.